Listen, everyone makes messes. It's just a part of life. And the bigger you live, the bigger the mess, if you know what I mean. That's why you need Fabuloso. With twice the active cleaning ingredients, it just completely takes the drama out of any mess. It smells great while you clean. The only way to describe it is the scent of passion. And once you're done cleaning, it lasts so long. You know, if you make a mess, you can get your home dramatically clean with Fabuloso. No worries.
This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. We come to you daily with short business episodes, interviews with brilliant private equity and business colleagues. Today, we're speaking with Holly Buckley, who lives at the intersection of healthcare and private equity. And I guess the great question is, we've got a new administration coming. Interest rates are coming down, but slowly. Private equity seems to be gearing up for a plethora of deals. The markets are close to all-time highs. Is there something to be cautious about? Or will we see record deal making again, or lots of deal making again? Holly, what's your take?
Thank you, Scott. So I do think we are going to see an uptick in deal making next year. I think it will be a relatively busy year. I have, I'd say, 5 kind of predictions in terms of what I think all this is going to look like. The first is, I think we're in for a softer but not soft antitrust climate. Lena Khan will be gone, almost certainly. I think it's probably been pretty explicitly noted that she will be gone, but she will no longer be leading the FTC, and they are looking for who will be stepping into that role. I do think that the antitrust climate will be, again, softer, but I don't think it's going to be a very liberal antitrust environment. I think there's pretty bipartisan support for continuing to regulate big tech to some degree. And I also think we're going to continue to see antitrust interest and enforcement at the state level as well.
But if people are predicting that sort of antitrust enforcement and stoppage of deals, this was probably the strongest antitrust enforcement situation in a very long time under Lena Khan. People are predicting significantly less enforcement, and you're saying it's likely to be somewhere in between those two things, not quite as lenient as people want it to be, at least deal makers want it to be, but there will still be some serious antitrust scrutiny.
I think that's right. I mean, I think that it's not just going to all go away. I think we've got the new rules that I think it's unlikely that they're going to be swept aside. I think there will still be scrutiny. I think it will be significantly lighter than it has been under the current administration.
Thank you very, very much. So that's prediction 1. Now, I wish we don't have the acoustics for the drum roll, but assuming we're moving towards the drum roll, tell us prediction number 2.
Prediction number 2 is deregulation. I think Trump has really run on a anti-regulation, small government platform. And so I do think there will be some level of deregulation in just kind of reading what's out there here. I think this will likely benefit energy, financial services, and the pharmaceutical sectors. I think some headwinds for green energy and other sectors that rely on increased regulation.
That's number 2, less regulations. We've already got Lena Khan going away, most likely, which deal makers, whether they love or hate the concept of more antitrust enforcement, are probably happy to see that happen, even though there's such a complicated discussion, because many of us do think the biggest companies are too powerful. But, you know, you got to be careful what you ask for, because she came in with a lot with guns blazing. And then less regulation in this administration, but also less support for green energy initiatives. Those are the first 2. Holly, bring us to number 3.
Number 3 is likely decreased taxes. And so decreased taxes for companies and the wealthy, the likely extension of all or some of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And I think this will likely fuel deal making as well.
So that's great news, of course. No, I'm just kidding. I know that people don't like to hear that, but lower taxes, good. Okay, go ahead with prediction number 4. Right, they want to keep these tax cuts that they made 7-8 years ago permanent now, or 5-6 years ago, and much hotly debated and so forth. People have done a ton of different estate planning and deal making based on the concept of these taxes. And I guess the idea of the Trump administration is that you'll have more money flowing and lead to more growth to help make up some of the massive deficits that have been run up under, quite frankly, Trump and Biden. Both hit those deficit buttons pretty hard, and we've got to get those under control. Bring us to the next prediction, please.
Yeah, I mean, my next two are really the more cautionary ones, I would say. I mean, all of these can be somewhat cautionary, but I think more cautionary would be number 4 would be, I think we're going to see increased inflation again. I think if Trump follows through on his deportation plans, which I think he very highly likely will, I think we will see increased inflation as a lot of the labor force is deported, and there'll be a chilling effect around things like agriculture and construction. And so I think we will see a return to a more inflationary environment when that was just starting to get under control. And then my 5th and final is I think we will see a pretty significant increase to the deficit under the Trump administration, which long term I think can be pretty damaging to the overall strength of the economy.
Right. So we're always a believer that debt and the deficits kill nations, companies, families. We say it often, we believe it, and at some point we got to get the deficit under control. Nobody wants to do it under their administration because they think it will cause a recession, because so much of the government spending gives us this artificial growth in the country. Both the last 2 presidencies hit this debt button really, really hard, and I think did us a disservice. The deportation situation, I assume, and I'm going to always be wrong, but there's probably going to be more bark than bite there. It's not like we're going to deport 20 million people. When J.D. Vance talked about this in more depth, he said, maybe 1 million that are illegal but potentially criminal too. If it's 1 million, it seems like it would have very little impact on it's all sort of unregistered workforce anyways, but would have little impact on the inflation. But if it ends up being serious numbers, what a mess that would be. I mean, just on 1 million levels. Yeah.
So we're just going to have to see on that if it's a quick hot flash in the pan, or if it's a really prolonged sustained effort. And I think you're right. If it's the latter, it's going to be very detrimental.
So your sense is, if I hear you right, you've gone through 5 items. 3 are positive towards the Trump administration perspective in the economy. 2 are negative. So is it clear to say that you're in the Make America Great camp again now? I mean, clearly 3 out of 5. I mean, what's your sense, Holly?
So I don't know that 3 out of the 5 are necessarily positive as much as positive for the deal-making environment. And I think we will keep this as a nonpartisan podcast.
We couldn't agree more. That's me just stirring it up and causing trouble. Holly Buckley, one of the best in the business, leads the McGuireWoods healthcare team, which lives at that intersection of private equity and healthcare. Just a fantastic leader. I couldn't bait her into serious discussion there about the politics. She held off. Tremendous deference and diplomacy. Holly Buckley, the best there is. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast.
Thank you, Scott.
Listen, everyone makes messes. It's just a part of life. And the bigger you live, the bigger the mess, if you know what I mean. That's why you need Fabuloso. With twice the active cleaning ingredients, it just completely takes the drama out of any mess. It smells great while you clean. The only way to describe it is the scent of passion. And once you're done cleaning, it lasts so long. If you make a mess, you can get your home dramatically clean with Fabuloso. No worries.